What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another Aggie Sports Zoom Hangout because we're in that kind of year 2020 where we do the Zoom things. I'm Travis Brown with the Eagle. Next to me is Robert Cessna, also of the Eagle, and we have Alex Miller on this call as well to break down A&M's 20-7 win over LSU here at Kyle Field. Cease, it was a win, but it wasn't necessarily a good win. It kind of had vibes of that Vanderbilt game, the way A&M started the season. What were your initial observations from this game?
Well, you're absolutely correct. I did think of the Vanderbilt game because they come out. I really thought the offense played horrible against Vanderbilt. I didn't understand some of the play calling. And now I fast forward. I didn't understand the offense. I didn't understand some of the play calling. And I guess I'm laughing because they did win 20-7, right? I did get that score right.
Yes.
I guess I'm laughing because it's one of those ugly wins. It's like last couple of years I ripped Notre Dame because everybody knows I'm a voter in the AP, which means nothing. You got to look at the college football playoff. I thought the offense will break it down, but I just want to get out. I was so impressed with the defense, and now this is the second game in a row they have played a great game. So I think there's really a silver lining, which I wrote my column about in all that rain. The defense took another huge step forward. And if A&M keeps winning 20-7 games the rest of the way out, they're going to be 9-1 and possibly be in the college football playoff.
I think people on the TV broadcast, the people up here, everyone has said it. That was a defense that held to that number 5 ranking. That is a number 5 playoff bound ranking kind of defense. That offense, though, was something
125
was something to not to behold. It was Kellen Mond's worst passing accuracy performance since Mississippi State in 2017, his freshman year, as he completed, I believe it was 32% of his passes, went 11 for 34 for 105 yards. And you want to say Isaiah Spiller was the saving grace. I mean, 141 yards on 27 carries, but I believe it was 86 of those yards came on 2 rushes.
2 plays.
Which was the 59-yard touchdown run and then a 32-yard run on the next play. He had the ball in the second quarter. So, yes, he put up some big numbers, and 141 yards is nothing to scoff at, but there was a lot of yards and probably more yards for negative yardage in this game than he's had all season.
Yeah, getting back, you brought a good deal about making a reference to the Vanderbilt game. I'm sitting there, and I always have a rough time when you start criticizing the way coaches call games because Jimbo Fisher has a national championship. He's got how many New Year's Six Bowl? But I was puzzled. Like, for example, is the reverse on first and 10. He calls reverse, where it's at the 16 or whatever. And LSU has pretty good pressure, and they're going to go after Spiller. And I get it. You want to hand the ball off. Everybody's going after Spiller, but Spiller didn't have a chance to really hand it off. And then suddenly that whole series is blown up. And so many passes were incomplete. And yeah, you can say, like, I saw Cam Brown drop, or Lane saw these drops. And I'm saying, but some of them were bad. He was behind them. So why not throw swing passes? I'm not watching the film every day, but I expect Jimbo Fisher, I guess, to call a better game than he called, because I thought everybody else is finding holes in this LSU defense. And I understand weather had a lot to it. And I guess it was the layoff, because I just wasn't impressed about almost anything about the offense tonight.
So you mentioned the play calling. Texas A&M isn't necessarily one this year to use jet sweep motion. They're the second, according to SEC StatCat, a guy that we use some of his stuff a lot. It was the second lowest team in the SEC to use jet sweep motion this season. They also don't run a whole lot of RPOs. And when you use that kind of jet sweep motion, usually you're feeding into a lot of read actions that reads into RPOs. And that seems like the way A&M started this game out, mostly in the first half. It was a pretty vast move away from what they've done and kind of done well for most of the season.
Yeah, and like I said, I felt like all night long they were out of sync. They just didn't know what they were going to do. And some of that has when you're not converting third downs, because they led the nation in third down, which you wrote about this week. But we all know football enough. as I wrote in my grades, they were crappy on first and second down. So if you're bad in first and second down, you're not going to be good on third down.
Sure, sure. Well, we did mention the defense again. This defense performance was good today. Ironically enough, both teams gained 267 yards exactly.
I did a double take. I go, did I have one of these wrong?
Right, but A&M again with the rush defense held them to 36 yards rushing tonight. Big game for Buddy Johnson. Big game for DeMarvin Leal. Let's go ahead and go over to Alex Miller, who's here at the stadium with us. He did a little story on DeMarvin Leal. What did you see from him, and what did you see from the Aggies today?
Yeah, obviously DeMarvin, big game from him. He tied his career high in tackles. You know, he was very disruptive early. He had the huge tackle on that fourth down play on LSU's first drive of the game. You know, they were kind of in that no man's land at the 35. They went for it. They were short by about a foot. And, you know, that really set the tone for how the A&M defense played the rest of the night because, you know, LSU on that first drive, they moved the ball down into A&M's territory, came up empty-handed, and then from there, it was hard for them to really get momentum until that last drive of the game where they scored that last-second score that probably covered the spread, made some bettors upset. But, you know, I thought DeMarvin, he did most of his work on first and second down, which was big for A&M because that set up a lot of third and longs for LSU. Their average down and distance to go was about 7.5 yards. And I think they were only 2 of 16 on third down. One of those came on that last drive in the game. And so, you know, with DeMarvin, we've seen it before. Last year, he predominantly played defensive tackle, and then they move him to defensive end. Or, excuse me, I think it was the other way around. But, you know, they move him around. Tonight, he started on the strong side of the defensive line, and then he moves over to the weak side. And so having a guy like that where you can plug and chug, and, you know, A&M was given some goofy fronts. They were doing a lot of blitzes and stunts with their secondary guys. We saw Tyree Johnson at linebacker. I mean, there were some odd fronts for A&M tonight, but a mainstay was DeMarvin Leal. And, I mean, they pressured LSU's quarterbacks like crazy, whether it was Leal, whether it was the linebackers. Hansford had a couple of huge ones that resulted in one of them with the pick six. And so, yeah, having a guy like DeMarvin, your standout sophomore, have a game like that was big for A&M.
Before we move past kind of piling on the offense today, we have to also talk about the offensive line. Probably one of the strongest units, strongest points of A&M season so far, and then the most improved from last season, had to be their worst game of the season so far. I think this was even worse than the Vanderbilt game because they allowed him on to kind of be on his butt. He took a huge sack in the second half that he was wincing pretty bad from. And like we said, while Isaiah Spiller was able to make up good yardage on 2 plays, he had a lot of negative plays as well. And Jimbo Fisher simply said after the game, they got their butts kicked.
Well, that's interesting because, as I mentioned, I'm not a coach, but I was interested reading Coach Orgeron coming into this game. He was excited because for the first time this year, last week, they were able to get pressure with their 4 defensive linemen. And he said that made their pass defense better, obviously, because you only have to rush 4. And so I'm saying to myself, well, Arkansas was missing a lot of guys because of COVID. They had some walk-ons. I go, now he's going to play one of the better offensive lines in the country. Would LSU be able to get pressure with 4 people? And what I could tell, the times I looked, the answer was yes. They were rushing 4 guys and constantly getting pressure. That left them 7 in coverage, where no A&M receivers, to me, were getting no separation. So it all went back to the offensive line, which is a group that I criticized a lot last year, like a lot of people did. So I'm sitting there, was those guys, I'll be interested when Jimbo talks on Monday. Were they doing a lot of stunning? Why did the offensive line, could they not get traction maybe because it was the grass? Because I thought there just wasn't enough offensive line production there. There wasn't enough holes. If you don't get yardage on first down and second down, you're not going to pick up third. So I want to know what happened. Did LSU defensive line just get a lot better in the last 2 games, which could happen? But man, I was so underwhelmed because even on that play, I'm ripping where why would you call a reverse when they handed the ball to, I guess it was Lane coming around, but Spiller barely got the ball turned around. He was getting tackled for a loss. If it wouldn't have been a reverse, he was getting tackled for a loss. So I don't have an answer, but what did happen to the offensive line today?
Yeah, let's send it over to Alex. For anyone who is watching right now live on Facebook Live, thank you. And if you have any questions or comments or want to get involved with the conversation, go ahead and comment down there and we'll get those in. We have some. Alex, what do you got?
Yeah, speaking of wide receivers, we got a question from our friend John. John says, we have been thin at wide receiver. Where does A&M stand right now with wide receivers? Obviously, tonight was the first night A&M didn't have Cam Brown as he announced his transfer. Damon Demas, he was unavailable, Jimbo Fisher said. And by the looks of it, A&M only targeted 3 different receivers tonight. They got Jalen Weidemeyer involved, of course, and Anias, and well, I guess Anias counts as a receiver, but Isaiah Spiller got a couple of looks too.
Okay, you guys, a lot of times you guys are younger, your eyes are better. Did they not use Smith enough tonight? Because once again, as I try to look at different things, or did LSU just take him away?
I think LSU took him away. You look at the stats. Anias Smith had 8 targets. He had 3 receptions for 36 yards, which was a team best for A&M. You know, Cease, you kind of mentioned it, how LSU, they played really strong man defense. I thought LSU secondary did a great job covering A&M's receivers. Kellen, obviously, he didn't quite have that touch tonight. I'm sure the rain didn't help, but I did notice that they were targeting Anias on kind of those corner routes, and Kellen was never really able to hit him on a lot of those. And you know, it goes back to what you said. The receivers just didn't get great separation. Obviously, LSU secondary is headlined by Derek Stingley, and A&M went right after him. I mean, they threw the ball at him probably 8, 9, 10 times, and there were a couple of passes that A&M got catches on him. The Anias Smith catch early that was ruled a first down, and then reviewed it, and then they ruled it short. But for the most part, LSU secondary got the best of A&M, and they took away Anias, which was I think a huge reason why A&M's offense didn't do as well as it did.
I can't necessarily go back and be completely sure on this, but it seems to be one of the few times this season that A&M has faced man-to-man coverage for the extent of the game, and they struggled with it. And Jimbo Fisher even mentioned after the game that they struggled with it as well. But yeah, it's going to be concerning to see if Chase Lane leaves the game there at the end, towards the end, after falling on his arm funny. There are a lot of other things going on. We didn't get to ask about that after the game. I'm sure we will on Monday. But if he is out, it's kind of been these 4 guys and then a gap on who else could fill in wide receiver. I mean, you have somebody like Moose Muhammad. You have potentially Damon Demas is someone who everyone has thought would come in and fill in with A&M, but of course he was unavailable today. So yeah, if Chase Lane isn't able to go, it will be interesting to see maybe who fills in that spot. It was Cam Brown, but like we said, he's already put himself in the transfer portal and signed with UCLA, so he's gone. So yeah, Cease, I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, I thought they would. I picked the game up. I'll be a big boy, 45-17. I thought they'd come out and maybe struggle for a half of the first quarter just because of COVID. We know the offense, but I just thought when I looked at how LSU has given up yards to everybody and the way A&M had played so well during that 4-game winning streak, I just thought they'd kick in gear. They'd be able to get the ball. They'd run the ball, number one. And I was just really shocked at any time. I thought even in the second half, they'll come out and score in 2 of their first 3 drives. They'll have the 14 points on, and it'll be, 24 to 31 nothing or whatever, and you'll be okay. And it was Vanderbilt all over. It never got better on offense. It never got better on offense.
Right. So here's what we need to lead into, because we've asked Jimbo Fisher and the players about was this a good enough performance to keep a hold of their number 5 spot in the college football playoff. And of course, they're not going to bite. They're not worried about the playoff, but fans are worried about the playoff. So guys, I'll start with Cease. like we said, defense. This is a top 5 defense, but did A&M do enough in this game, or should they be worried about Florida surpassing them in the eye test, like a lot of people have talked about wanting to happen, even despite the head-to-head win?
I think they just still have to worry about themselves because Florida has Alabama to worry about, and they're not going to beat Alabama because Alabama's talk about a team finding its defense. Alabama's defense is coming on. And I think if your defense is coming on, you're making headway. So A&M's defense is coming on. A&M needs to focus on them. And you asked me that question. You'll go to Alex next about have they done good enough to be number 5? Oh, I think they have. They won the game. Last time they were here, we laid the egg in Mississippi. They laid the egg in Mississippi State. So we dissected them the whole way driving back from Starkville why they sucked. So at least they won this game. Don't forget, folks, they won the game. My question to you guys would be, I'll be interested to see, and they'll never admit it, maybe the fact that you are number 5. So they had a couple of weeks to think about it, and they're just not out there anymore being a carefree sophomore or whatever. Suddenly they're a number 5 team in the nation. And I think that's in the back, rankings are for fans, but players also want to say they're the best. So they did get LSU's best shot today, and I don't think A&M gave them their best shot. And was any of that due to the fact is in the back of their mind, they're saying, hey, we're number 5. Did Carson Green and Kenyon Green and Hawker and did they all make mistakes because they're thinking, I need to play, I'm number 5? And I don't know. But I answered your question, so you go on to Alex, and I asked you guys a question. I think maybe in the back of their head, that number 5 deal, cost them a little bit of the way they play.
Alex, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Cease. First of all, I wouldn't be too worried about Florida passing A&M because, as we know, the committee values head-to-head wins. And at the end of the day, A&M has still beaten Florida head-to-head. So if I were A&M, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. For Cease's question, I think he's right. I mean, players can say what they want, but when ESPN's plastering that stuff all over, I mean, it's hard not to
everywhere.
It's hard not to not see it. I mean, you really have to live under a rock. I know Jimbo doesn't have Twitter, but I guarantee you a bunch of other people on his staff do. So,
No Leon O'Neal knows.
We are certain Leon O'Neal knows. And
I just think they'll get better at handling that because they'll say we've been around enough these guys like Carson Green. He probably went there and go, hey guys, we sucked. Why did we suck? And somebody's going to say we need to quit looking at those damn rankings. Nobody needs to bring those up. We just need to kick the guy across from us.
I will say this though. The last time A&M was in a position close to this was 2016 when they were at number 4 in the initial poll. Just like this year, they were number 5 in the initial poll. What did they do last time? They went to Starkville, laid a giant egg, and it was a wrap. Trevor Knight got hurt. They lost it all right then and there in the Mississippi morning. And, they came out tonight, and they did not play well. It was a putrid performance from the A&M offense. But at the end of the day, until 38 seconds in the fourth quarter, they were beating LSU 20-0. There's a lot left to be desired. But like you said, Cease, A&M won the game. And at the end of the day, wins are what matter. Style points can come later. And A&M still got 3 games left to show the committee that they're capable and worthy of being in the playoff if that's how the committee feels about A&M.
Alex, is what you're telling me that you play to win the game?
Wow. Who would have thought, Travis?
Yeah, and I wrote in my column that's short, sweet, and probably bad, that taking a good defense is great when you're going on the road to Tennessee and Auburn. If you have a good defense, because you can't count on your offense, even if it was only 15,000 in Auburn, you can't count on Kellen Mond playing good at Auburn. I hate to say it, you can't count on him playing his best game. And I tell you what, guys, he had the hiccup in Mississippi State. God just shined on Alex. Did you notice that light? But I didn't think he'd be that bad again this year. And I don't want to say it's all his fault. He had some drops, but I never thought he would be 11 of 34 against LSU. I mean, I scratched my head at that. That's pretty bad.
So I think just to put the Florida thing to wrap. Yes, Florida has a great. First off, head to head, cool. Florida has a great offense, but their defense is very suspect. And if you want to say the opposite about A&M, A&M's defense is great, and sometimes their offense can be suspect. So kind of apples to apples there, head to head. So moving forward, you have I see this as not that much different than the Vanderbilt game. A&M comes in, high expectations. It's Vanderbilt. It's a game that they should win. They've been on a long break. Fall camp has been spread out. Offense comes out and throws a goose egg. They've had just a full 3-week break in the middle of the season where your timing gets off. You don't know who's been in quarantine and who hasn't. Just things aren't in sync. And I would think things would be like that Vanderbilt game where you saw the next week at Alabama, even though the offense wasn't great, things started to look better and fuse together a little bit better. Moving forward, I pick up steam, get back together, and move through these last 3 games, continue finding a continuation of where they were before. So, yeah, I think that they're, like we've said, they're in the driver's seat as far as putting themselves in the best possible position if they keep winning games. And that's all you can really do from there.
I think they will practice this week is that they lost this game because in their mind, I think they lost. I'll be a Jimbo, a disciple here. I think they lost an opportunity to get better on offense. They definitely should have put up 400 or 500 yards on LSU, and to put up 267 yards. That offense is going to feel real bad all week long, and they'll want to turn that around very quickly because it was an unacceptable performance. And I think Jimbo will be the first one. He is on offense, and we saw that in Vanderbilt. So you'd almost like to fast forward real quick. I'll be interested to see what they do in Auburn because I think they'll come out and play much better on offense.
I think they will as well. Any parting words, Alex?
Yeah, another week down. I'm curious to see what A&M responds with next week too. You know, Auburn, they got smacked today by Alabama. It wasn't even close. So, you know, Alabama's been doing that to everybody, obviously, but Auburn has been a thorn in A&M's side the last 3 years too. And so that is not a game that you can just look past if you're the Aggies.
Not at all, because who knows what Auburn's playing for, the state of their mind coming off the Alabama hangover. This game has proven A&M's got to worry about themselves. How does the defense now build on back-to-back great efforts, and how does the A&M offense put that stinker behind?
Mm-hmm. And kind of exercise a few demons of playing at Jordan-Hare.
And, you know, Mon was bad there last time. They should have won the game 2 years ago, and Mon had a big turnover, and he doesn't play well at times on the road, and now he's coming off this horrid effort, 105 yards. I mean, if you told me he's going to pass for 105 yards, I go, what quarter are you talking about?
Well, we'll close with this. I think that we can all agree that in what was an abysmal offensive performance from Texas A&M, the one bright spot of the offense had to be Carson Green carrying the ball.
You know, we like Carson Green as a media person because he comes in, he speaks what's on his mind. If that 16-yard run or whatever would have counted, oh my gosh, because they'd have scored. Mm-hmm. If that had been good, I guarantee they scored because that was manna from heaven. And of course, they ruled it not. Carson Green would have been great with us after that.
Sure. Well, that's about all the time we have tonight. It's getting late. We need to get out and walk through this rain, and we need to get Cease a new laptop over here. So we'll take care of all of that this week and get ready for covering Auburn next week. So be sure to check theeagle.com, pick up a paper tomorrow, read all the recaps from today, and then online you can see all the videos and recaps of today's game. And we'll be back next week to talk a little bit of A&M and Auburn. Thanks, everybody.